Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition here of Tech Niche Tips. If wherever you're tuning in from, go ahead and drop down right below. Say, I'm here from wherever. We are live. This is happening right now. Go ahead, pinch yourself, or I can pinch myself out, and you know it's happening. But I'm excited because and I'm going to talk about a little bit of things, housekeeping things, before I bring on our guests that we have today. But I am excited because we've reached the 1,000 subscriber mark. Good morning, Nadia. Good morning. Good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here with us. And yep, you're tuning in from Atlanta. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm bad with names historically. I said it a couple times already. So Queen not I'm gonna try it. Quina. Okay, oh, that's bad. I'm bad. All right, who's from Brooklyn? Who's from Brooklyn? All right, BK in the house. BK in the house. NYC. And so I just had to, I just try it names sometimes just to make people laugh, and other times to make myself look silly. But forgive me for any mispronunciation of names today, because historically I'm working on that. But anyway, as I said, we're going live, and I wanted to say thank you to all of the subscribers on YouTube. Clap it up for yourselves right now, because we have officially hit the 1,000+ mark, and I'm very excited. I started this in December of last year, trying to help people in regards to landing in tech, and we've made it. So if you're not a subscriber on the channel, go ahead and join the family. Go ahead and join the party, because there are a lot of great interviews, a lot of great things that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about more about myself in this new season I call season 2 of the channel. So definitely tune in. And while you do that, I'm going to put great day, everyone. Yes, great day. I'm going to put down, oh, Detroit's in the house. Detroit basketball. I don't know if you like basketball, but I'm going to put that in there. Q is fine. Thank you. I'm going to call you Q. Appreciate that, Q. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for everybody joining this conversation that we're going to have today. Now, I have somebody that's special. If you've seen or been a part of the CourseCareers family, you have seen him post about his experiences transitioning into tech, him and his beautiful family. And you also have seen, him just talking about the real. And so I wanted to bring him on because I think it'll be encouragement to those that are looking to break into tech, pivot into tech, transition into tech, so that we could have this honest conversation about the path to get there. And without further ado, I'm so excited to bring my colleague in here, my friend. We just met for the first time today. But I'm pretty sure that this is just the beginning to something even greater. So without further ado, let me bring Kingston on. Hey, Kingston, how you doing, sir? Is everything well with you?
Hey, how's it going? It is going really well.
It is well with my soul too, and I'm so excited to have you
Good.
here. So like I said to everybody, this is live. So if we slip up, if we say something, have grace for us today. It's early in the morning, and together we are pretty close to having the 12 tribes of Israel with its combination. Not to steal his thunder, but as y'all know, I have 6 children, and he's going to talk about how much he has as we go on. But without further ado, what we're going to do first is talk about, the way these conversations flow. So they basically flow like this. They're boots to the brain. Boots is symbolic of the journey Kingston has taken to get to where he is right now. And the brain is symbolic of the mindset one needs to have, not only to be where Kingston is right now, but to also scale from there. So without further ado, Kingston, I'm going to let you talk about your story from the very beginning, because the beginning is a great place to start.
Yeah, sure, man. So my background is ministry. Went to school for that. I got my master's in people know what apologetics is. I got my master's in apologetics and philosophy, and was a pastor for several years. All in all, I was in ministry for about 10 years, a little more than that, and yeah, it was a difficult grind. There were some community changes, some belief shifts that happened as well, and things transitioned out of that. And I found myself not knowing what to do. I tried doing real estate for a little while, and not selling it, but helping a friend flip houses who was already doing it, and I kind of got burned on that as well. Didn't Let's say it didn't go how it was supposed to go. So lost a lot of time, lost a lot of money, and I've got a family, and I just needed a solution, and I wasn't sure what to do. I enjoy the idea of sales. Being in ministry, we never had enough income to really support our family, and so I was doing ministry, but I was also doing a lot of other side hustles, and sometimes those side hustles were sales jobs. They were always temporary because in order to really get going, you have to do it more than part time. I was always a little optimistic, and I would think, "Oh, I can do this part time, and it will be okay." And it never really shook out. But I enjoyed doing it, and I made a little bit of money, and it was fun. And so I thought, well, I'll just do sales full time. I'll just get into that. And then I had to pick an industry, right? So tech stood out, and I thought I'd go for it. And I actually my wife went with CourseCareers. She actually went through the program as well. She ended up taking the kind of the knowledge, if you will, and going into insurance sales. And she's doing that and doing really well with that. She's in a program with Farmers Insurance, and she's loving it. But I was going to go through another option other than CourseCareers. It was an option that they were going to place me, and I was going to be an intern for a little while. And then, after 3 months of being an intern, 90% get placed with the company. And I'm like, dude, I'll take the intern pay for 3 months for the guarantee of the job. After that, that's good. Well, it was, I did all the stuff, did their course, never heard anything from them, was reaching out all the time, calling the number all the time. And then after a few weeks of calling almost every day, I finally get a hold of somebody, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't really work with anybody in your state." And I was like, "Oh, well, it would have been nice to know." Like, and so I immediately was like, "Okay, well, I need to do CourseCareers." Didn't have any money to do CourseCareers, so I'm like, "Mom, can I borrow some money to do this course?" And she was very gracious and supported me in that. And I did the course in 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. I just put my head down and went through it. Whenever I got to the test, I didn't overthink it. I just took the test, and I passed barely. I didn't. It wasn't. It wasn't an incredible score, but what it did is it gave me the confidence. It gave me the assurance to then put myself out there, and I started prospecting companies. I researched. What do I want? What do I care about? I didn't really care what I was selling as long as it was ethical. I didn't really care. I just wanted to be in a company with a good culture. I wanted a good pay, and I wanted to be mentored by somebody who knew what they were doing and could help me go to the next level. So those are my three things. And I just found companies that at least had the first two, because I don't really know the mentors. That would kind of be a part of the interview process. And I started prospecting them. And I had three companies. The first week that I really pushed everything out, 3 companies interviewed me. And I kind of, I fought for them. You know what I mean? 2 of the interviews, particularly, I had to fight for the interviews. It wasn't even as simple as applying and then putting them in a sequence and reaching out. But I had to like in the email, or in the text message, I had to text the founder, and I was like, "Hey, look, just give me an interview. Like, you're not responding to anything. Just give me an interview. I'm not asking you to hire me. I'm just asking you to sit down with me and see if you like me. That's it. Just interview me." And he texted me back and was like, "Okay, let's sit down for an interview." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." Yeah, and I ended up getting an offer from them too. So it was cool. But all 3 companies actually did give me offers, and I was able to pick from what I wanted. And I chose a company called the Man Base that I had to fight for their interview, and it's been really great, man. I've really been loving it. The culture is amazing there at Demand Base. The pay is on the higher end of the SDR spectrum, and they have an incredible program where you can promote within to like 5 or 6 different positions, like not just AE, but if you want to go into the CSM route, you can go into the CSM route. They even have a bridge to marketing if you want to get into marketing. They have like just so many different bridges that once you're an SDR and you kind of show your aptitude there, then they'll bridge you to wherever you want to go in the company. And I'm like, okay, like this is it. This is it for me, So yeah, and here I am doing this interview with you now.
I'm telling you, your life could
There we go.
change so quickly when just taking
Right.
little steps to just to better yourself, honestly. And congregation, those that are watching, feel free to write down any questions that you have. We're going to have a Q&A later with Kingston, so feel free to write down any questions you have. If something that is said that sparks you, like, whoa, that was good, use the comment section as your notebook. That way you could turn back to it later on, and we're going to have fun because this is going to be a conversation. So let's dive, let's go back a little bit. Right, you talked about ministry being in there for 10 years. Ooh, that is a beautiful labor of love. My
Mm-hmm.
parents are missionaries right now to Guyana. They have a home for street children.
Mm.
My grandfather was a pastor. My whole side of my family is full of people that are pastors, evangelists, you name it. There's a title attached to it.
Yeah.
Can you kind of, if you feel comfortable, of course, talking about it, can you dive into that grind of 10 years? Because it's
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then we're going to open up the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a definitely a passion for me. It was something that that I loved. Passion. I use that word intentionally. We say like I'm passionate about ice cream. Like I'm like an ice cream is my like I'll eat it all the time. But I wouldn't say that I'm passionate for it, because to be passionate for something means that you're willing to suffer for it.
Mm.
That's what passion means. And so I'm passionate for my family. I'll suffer for my family. And I was passionate for ministry. I was willing to endure whatever it was that needed to be endured for that, because that was what I was meant to do. In that time, I believe that in that time it is what I was meant to do. And so it was a grind, though. It was difficult because you're. It's not like I'm really blown away stepping into like a corporate. I don't know if corporate tech is corporate. I don't know what that. But stepping into the tech space where it's not a church place, and it's the first time I'm really working full time in a place that's not a. No, it's not true. I did have a stint there where I worked full time somewhere else, but even that was different. So this is like and that was for like a few months, but um, this is it's different, man. It's really crazy, and in a lot of ways, it's I don't even know how to put words to it, because so Demand Base has like well, like after 5 o'clock. Like I told you, I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock, on the weekdays, and whenever we're talking about scheduling this, and
Yeah.
like after 5 o'clock, they don't ask anything of me. You know what I mean? And that's not true in ministry. You're constantly, you know, people are constantly needing things, and it's great, and you're available to help. It's difficult to establish boundaries, with family, and my family, suffered for that a little bit, because I didn't do that very well at first, because there were no oh, well, somebody needs help and I have to go help them, almost like a savior complex,
Yeah.
which is not healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, there was that. There was also, it was more than 40 hours a week. I had one guy, I remember, a congregant who was a very that one those two meetings. He sit down with me, and he just wanted to tell me all the things that he didn't like about me. And
Wow.
he had the elders, he called an elder meeting just so he could tell me all the things he didn't like. And I'm just like, oh, well, like, have I betrayed your trust? Have I, what have I done? And it literally was 3 hours, and then it wasn't long enough. We had to schedule another meeting just so he could continue to talk about all the grievances he has with me.
You need
And
to
at
go to Jesus with
the
that.
yeah, and at the end of the 5 hours, it was just like, the conclusion that we came to is like, hey, I think you just don't like me. like like I don't think there's anything that I've done, like, is there something I've done that I need to ask you forgiveness on? Is there some type of reconciliation that needs to happen here? And the
Yeah.
conclusion was no. Eventually he's just like, I just don't like you. And I'm like, well, I can't really I can't really do anything about that, But I mean, like, that was that was kind of an embodiment of the overall struggle, because you're serving people continually, and you know you're dealing with both people like that, but then you're also dealing with people who, oh my gosh, like express love for you in the purest of ways,
Mm.
like people who they would sacrifice so much for you. Like my wife and
Yeah.
we were in a transition there where got a job at a church, and it was our first full-time ministry placement. And that, like, we had a lease that was ending, and it's like, well, do we renew the lease? And then, well, no, okay, we'll buy a house. We're going to buy, I'm in Ferguson, Missouri right now. And this was happening whenever all that, turmoil was taking place. And so, it's like, well, it's really important to us that we move to Ferguson, that we live in Ferguson, because that's where the church is. We want to own the community. We don't want to feel like, we don't want anyone to perceive that we're running from this. And so we bought a house in Ferguson, and it fell through at the last minute. Well, our lease ended. And so we're like, well, we don't know where we're going to go. And literally a lady in the church moved out of her house in like a day and moved into her mom's house and just gave us her house. And we lived there for like, I want to say like 9 months while we're trying to find another house. I mean, like, just like incredible sacrifice. And so, like, you're dealing with all these intense, like, major wide spectrums of emotions. And it's like, I'm dealing with people who just will never like me no matter what. There's nothing I could do. And then I'm dealing with people who don't even know me, because I wasn't even there. I mean, I was just starting there in ministry, and who were like, I'll just move out of my house and live with my mom. And I told her, I was like, I don't know how long this is. Like, we don't have a plan. Like, we have to go find another house, get under contract.
Yeah.
And we did it with another house, and that fell through. And then we finally got another house, and so she's just like, oh, it's okay. I like my mom, and we're fine. They lived on the same street. She lived on the same street as her mom, so she's like, it's not a big deal. And like, everything, her furniture, her bed, her house, it was all, she was like, it's your house. You just do whatever you want. I'm like, oh my gosh. So like dealing with the spectrums of that, and then, processing all of that, and, having to walk the line of loving the people who don't really care about you, and then feeling like, and not wanting to feel like you're indebted to, love that's being given to you. You don't want to assume that there's strings attached. And so, I mean, it was an emotional grind as well as a physical grind. Because I remember that gentleman that had issue with me. He's like, well, how many hours do you even work a week? And I was like, I don't even know, dude. I don't keep track of it.
Can't count it.
And after that, I started counting it. And I was like, okay, I have to stop counting it, because I'm starting to get resentment, because I was at 40 hours on Wednesday. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not counting it, because now I'm really mad at that guy. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm starting to feel entitled, and I don't want that. And so I had to stop tracking it. But and then also, doing side hustles. So I mean, it was an emotional grind. It was a physical grind. It was a financial grind. I mean, it was a grind, and it was, I'll say, while I was doing it, I honestly didn't so much see that it was a grind until I got out of it. Because like I said, it was just like, this is just what I'm supposed to do. This is just, this is just for me right now. And I believe that it was. I believe it was for me in that season. So.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this is so powerful for people to see, because oftentimes people don't really understand, like, or see that side. But it really is a labor of love. Like you said, I think you said a great passion. It really is a passion. And sometimes, this is a question for everybody here. Like, what are the things that you are passionate for? What are you willing to sacrifice for? Because there was a lot of sacrifice in that season of your life that you're like, wait, like 40 hours by Wednesday, you were definitely like 108 plus by the end of the week. That's, if you could wrap your mind around that, listeners, that's a lot, right? And so you just, as you're talking, you made me think about a couple of things. And one thing is that word passion, because if you want to be, I believe, in tech sales or any sort of industry, you kind of have to have a level of passion, that pursuit of it, and that level of, I'm going to sacrifice to get it. And you talked about having a passion for your family. Can you talk, and of course, you can provide a little bit of context if you feel comfortable doing that, about your family dynamic and stuff, but can you talk a little bit about how your passion for your family led you to tech sales?
Yeah. So that was kind of a big, eventually, like, there's always been this, like, I don't know, this weird conversation getting in ministry and talking about money. You know what I mean? Like, I remember so in ministry, we don't have benefits, and we couldn't afford health insurance. And so I remember going to the elders and being like, hey, like, I need health insurance. And it's like $600 a month to cover my family, and like we just don't have that. And I remember like having to feeling like I had to, and this may have been more me projecting that onto them instead of them, instead of being legitimate how they were handling it. But like it felt like I went into it feeling like I have to prove that like this is
Worthy.
worthy. Yeah, exactly. And so like because there's just a weird dynamic when you get into money and the church, and again, a lot of that I think was more inside of me that I was putting out into the situations. Um I got 5 kids. My oldest is 8, and my youngest are 2. There's twins, and they're 10 months old, and we didn't know we were having twins also, and they came kind of as everything was transitioning. And so we didn't know we were having twins until the second one came out, and I was just like, whoa, we were not expecting you, little one.
Like
So
you
yeah,
in the,
so
in
that
the
was,
hospital, like, wait, one more.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
exactly. Nobody, no doctors, nobody knew that there were 2 in there. And so yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, that was wild. And so it's like, well, now, like, we didn't even have one of everything because they came early, because we didn't know there were twins. We thought we were having a premature baby, because twins come early, yeah, we thought we were having a premature baby, and so we didn't even have one of everything yet. I'm like, well, now I got to go get 2 of everything. So yeah, so we got 5 kids, and eventually something in me just kind of uh, shifted where as I'm transitioning and I'm looking for what it is that I need. Even in the real estate, I was working with a friend, and I was afraid to like kind of stand up for myself and be like, hey, like, because I was kind of a part of the struggle was I was doing a lot of work and the compensation was a little fuzzy, and I kind of was allowing that for a while. And then I something in me shifted, and I just was like, hey, I'm not going to allow this anymore. I need to get paid, and this is what I need to get paid. This is what my work is worth. Take it or leave it. And eventually he decided to leave it, and so then I was like, well, all right, I can't, I'm not working for free. So, so then transitioned into, looking for something else. And it was a priority of mine. And I wasn't ashamed to say it was a priority, that I need income. I need money. I want to provide for my family. Honestly, it's been having the time freed up and the increase in finances it's really been it's just been a major blessing. I mean, like, I'm able to hang out with my kids on the weekend. Like, I've not been able to do that. I remember so often feeling like, there would be like something would come up, like an event or something that my wife was taking the kids to, and I really wanted to go. And I was always met with this decision of like, okay, well, if I don't go, I'm going to really regret not going and spending that time with them. But then if I do go, I always found myself thinking about working and thinking about the next thing and thinking about what I felt like I should be doing in that moment that wasn't getting done. And so it
Yeah.
was always it was like, no matter what, I'm not going to be content. And the answer there was never well, just get out of, I want to be really clear in saying that my answer wasn't to get out of ministry and get into another career. That wasn't my answer to that dilemma. The dilemma was inside of me. You know what I mean? It's always
Yeah.
possible to find contentment in anything that you're doing, wherever you are, if it's expected or unexpected.
Yeah.
But I hadn't learned that lesson yet. I will say I was learning that lesson. But I will say, having that time freed up, having, enough income, where, we can just kind of hang out and not have to have that stressor. It's been really cool.
Yeah, man.
So
So let's
yeah.
get into some meat and potatoes for the people, y'all. Go ahead and write your questions down. I know that we're gonna get into now the tech sales portion of it. Now that we talked about the life portion of it, because that is important as well to understand who it is that we're talking to and what they've been through. Man, you stand out on LinkedIn, and I think that you do it in such a way that really kind of sets you apart in regards to your posts. Can we talk about that? Because I think that kind of played a part into you landing your job. Can you talk about what you did to stand out on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So with what I did on LinkedIn, I wasn't posting too much whenever I got the job, because I was just hyper focused on getting the job. But I heavily utilized the LinkedIn. I mean, the job that I demand base, I didn't find it in a job board. I found it on a LinkedIn post. The hiring manager made a post and said, "Hey, we're hiring 4 SDRs. If you want to work with an amazing team, like," and he tagged, you know, 5 or 6 people. If you want to work with an amazing team like these guys, with these guys, and if you want to, and you put the pay right there. The pay is this much commission, this much base pay, and like I was like, dude, like let's go, like. And he said the most creative outreach will get you an interview. And so I researched him. I was like, okay, who's this guy? And I researched him on LinkedIn. It was mostly like nothing that really stood out too personal, but then I got on his Twitter and he posted, I mean, he's not even active on Twitter anymore, but one of the top posts was a list of cards, baseball and football cards that he liked. And that he asked, like, hey, does anybody have these cards? And like in these editions. And like, I'm like, well, I probably can't afford the edition that he wants, but I'm going to look and see what players he likes, and then there was a LaDainian Tomlinson, and I believe he played for San Diego. I don't really know football players all that well, but the name stood out because it was a capital L, capital D. The rest of the name was lowercase, and I thought that name pops. So I put it in a subject line, and I actually bought a $2 card off of Amazon, and I mailed it to him, to his house that I found on White Pages. On White Pages, there were 2 addresses listed. One was an apartment, one was a house. So then on Facebook, I see that he recently got married, and he's like I think there was a picture of him standing outside of his house with his bride, and I'm like, well, he probably lived in the apartment very recently and then moved to the house. So I'm going to go with that address. And I was right, So mailed the card to him, wrote the email comparing myself as an SDR to LaDainian Tomlinson, did some research on like, why is LaDainian Tomlinson, a good football player, and just compared myself to him. And then I sent a video message on LinkedIn saying, hey, sent you this card, kind of gimmicky, I know, but really I think I'd be an incredible SDR for your team. And he never got back to me. I got his
all
number.
that.
Yeah, I got his number off of Apollo.io, and I started texting him and calling him. Never gets back to me. Like, and I know I have the right number because like his voicemail is like, hey, this is, and it gives his name. I'm like, I know I like every possible channel of outreach. I'm like, I'm plugging in and I'm getting nothing. So then I went to the people that he tagged, and whenever he made that post, I went to those people and I, did a connection request with all of them. I think most of them didn't accept it, but some did. One was this lady named Allie. I thought she was a fellow SDR. I thought she was just an SDR. So like, I'm messaging her. I'm like, yeah, I sent Matt a baseball card, she's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, that's really clever. And like, I'm talking to her. She's like, well, actually, I'm a part of the interview process. Like I'm an enablement manager. So like,
Ooh.
and like, I was like, oh wow. And so like, I just took advantage of that. I was like, as long as she's talking to me, I'm going to be talking back. And so like, we just had a casual conversation, and she said she's never had a LinkedIn conversation like that with a candidate before she even got to the interview. So whenever I sat down on the interview with her, she was a third interview, the third of 7. And so whenever I sit down, in the interview with her, it was like, we're meeting again. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and she was like she was the gatekeeper. So she did the cold call role play. And she was the one that was, and she was the one that then passed you on to go meet with the directors and the managers and stuff. And so it's like, wow, like that relationship that we had at first really gave me a lot of leverage in that interview. And it's like, wow. Yeah, I messaged a bunch of other people, and I was like, hey, I sent Matt a card. I haven't heard from him. Can you like reach out to him? And then most people ignored the message, but one guy, not even the gal, we got into our own conversation talking about childhood and stuff. and then the one guy was like, oh man, that's really cool. Yeah, I'll ping him right now. And it's like, I'm not, no joke, within 2 minutes of him sending that message, Matt got back to me and was like, oh yeah, man, really creative outreach. I'll have my recruiter reach out to you. And I was like, oh yes. So like, it was one that I had to kind of, thread and grind for that one. But yeah, it was worth it. Very, very well worth it.
What a story. I mean, like you took SDR to the next level, like even before you got the job. Think about it. You found it. You
Yeah.
found the. He's probably like, this guy is probably stalking me too much. I'm a little scared right now.
I
But
did think that. I thought, but then I thought, what do I have to lose? You know what I mean? Like he said, most creative outreach, he put himself out there. Like I'm not going to hold back. Like, so yeah, man, I didn't pull any, no punches pulled on that.
oh man, okay. Let me ask the audience: would you do something like that? Would you find your prospects' home address, mail them a card? In this case, get their telephone number. Would you do all that to land a job? Put say yes in the chat. Put no in the chat. I want to see your responses because I want to see how many people are that passionate and that hungry to get in this space because like that is some real passion right there. Let me see the yeses and nos in the chat. While that's coming through, I'm going to keep the conversation rolling here. So you talked about that. You talked about CourseCareers. We both graduated from CourseCareers. Can you let me know, like, what really did you find? What benefits did you find in doing CourseCareers, and how did that change your trajectory getting to tech sales?
Yeah, so I actually tried applying to tech sales jobs before I did CourseCareers. Like I I didn't know anything about tech sales, so I was literally going to like Indeed.com and I was like tech sales, like and then like I'm just applying for stuff, and I never heard anything back. And
Wow.
my sales experience previously was B2C. I mean, there was some examples where there might have been a little bit of a B2B crossover, but it was mostly B2C. And I didn't understand the B2B sales process. I didn't understand how robust it was, because my sales experience was like, you go for that one sit close,
Yeah.
you're talking to a consumer and you're trying to get them to just make by the time you're talking to them, they've basically already made the decision to do it, or not do it, and you're just trying to get them over the edge with it. And it's like, yeah, I that's what I was used to, and I was translating that into B2B, and it's like that's not it. And I didn't know it wasn't it at all until CourseCareers. And CourseCareers really kind of broke it down and was like, hey, that was how this is how it looks like. This is what the sales process looks like. And I had the sales journey. I didn't know that. Honestly, I felt a huge relief whenever they're like, it's okay for it to take some time. It's okay for people to make decisions. You're bringing in a lot of decision makers. I was like, oh, so I don't have to do like once it closes where it's, it's like, no, you're bringing people, from the company in on the conversation. You're letting them take time to process it. And, all you're doing is selling a meeting. You're not trying to sell the product as an SDR. And that's the kind of the mindset I brought into prospecting. I sold that to several people I emailed and texted. Like, I'm not asking you to hire me. I'm just asking you to sit down with me one time and see if you like me. That's it. You can do that. Anybody can do that. Just sit down with me, And so like that mentality shift, CourseCareers gave me an understanding of the B2B process that I did not have before. They also just gave me, an understanding of what the role of an SDR was, because, again, I'm not selling the product. I'm not selling the service. I'm just selling the meeting. Okay. I get that. That's different. All right. I can do that. And then, shifting from that to then what happened with it, what really clicked in my mind whenever Trent talked about do the job to get the job. And that just was like, okay, that's what I'll do, and they have like the spreadsheet in the course for the sequence. I took that, I altered it, made it my own, because there was no calling or texting on there, I don't think. And I was like, well, I'm definitely going to be calling and texting people. And so I added that in, and yeah, I plugged away. So CourseCareers gave me the confidence and the knowledge that I needed. I mean, it was like 9-day difference. I went from applying to random jobs that I didn't really understand what they were and not getting any feedback to, first week of applying, getting 3 companies to take interest and all 3 offering me positions, So, I mean, that was like night and day difference.
That is huge. So, that's a huge difference. Like,
yeah, it was big.
Oh my goodness. So listen here, family. If you're in course careers and you are struggling to land a job, know that it's possible and know that these different methods. That's why I have people come on live to do these interviews. Know that there are different ways that you can do it. That, in fact, I gotta highlight this comment here. It's above me now, says that was over and beyond. I will now basically do what you did, the Kingston
Yeah.
method. We might have to call it the Kingston method. But yeah, like you definitely want to be able to wean these different tactics and strategies, because this is not only stuff that you can use to land a job, but these are tools that you can use even in your prospecting. And that leads me to my next question with you, Kingston, is in regards to now being SDR, what are some things that you are learning now that you're on the other side in the tech industry?
Yeah. The biggest thing I'm learning is that everything all the time is changing.
Yeah.
Like, like literally while I was onboarding. So Demandbase has a long onboarding process because it's a really robust platform, that, and I love how they segment it out. So they're not trying to get everybody to. It's not one platform that you have to get this and it does. It's not. It's a Ferrari.
Yeah.
But if you only want this part and you just need a Honda, then we'll take this off the Ferrari and give you a Honda. That was a bad analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to understand, and so the onboarding process is long. And so the onboarding, I was onboarding for 4 or 5 weeks, just learning. Not Didn't have accounts yet, just learning the buyer personas and the service that we offer and the different offerings that we have. And I'm also at that time doing research on LinkedIn and looking at posts and like, okay, what are best practices whenever I do start prospecting? And literally, what was best practices then, what we're getting results then, from the time I'm learning about them to the time that I started doing them just a few weeks later,
Yeah.
they were antiquated. And it was like, and then I start seeing posts like, well, this isn't working anymore now, and I'm like, like, this is crazy. Like,
Wow.
constantly changing. And so,
Yeah.
um, and it's a difficult market to sell into right now. I know that discourages a lot of people. And I'm not going to lie, for me, there are moments where it's like, man, I wish, I had gotten into this a year ago, whenever apparently everything was popping, like that would have
Mm,
been great. But then I tell myself, man, if I can figure this out now, like in this difficult market, what like what's going to stop me? Like
sky's the limits.
like nothing will stop me. If I could say I was a successful SDR, in 2023, whenever the market was down, whenever, everybody was in panic mode and whenever budgets were frozen, if I can say I was a successful SDR now, or if
Yeah.
I can just say that. And by successful SDR, I'm not even necessarily saying, hitting quota every month or exceeding quota every month. Of course, that's my goal. But
Yeah.
if I did a successful SDR in the sense that I just stuck through it, I just put my head down.
Mm,
Here's different creative things that I did to try to break through the noise. Here's different, here's how many calls I made. Here's how many emails I sent. Here are the emails I was sending. They weren't, they were personalized. They weren't just mass spread and spray and pray. Like, if I'm able to not necessarily point that to other people, but even to myself, if I can stick through this, then
yeah.
I've got it made. And so, um, I'm learning that everything's changing. I'm learning that it's a difficult market, but that really the mindset is what makes or breaks it for everybody.
Mm. And that actually leads me to the last question I'm going to have before Q&A. So right now, if you're watching this, if you have any questions for Kingston or myself, please drop it down in the comment section. I'm going to get to it immediately after this last question. So now's the time to put it down. Otherwise, it'll be a cutoff, because last time we had too many questions. So put them in right now, so that way we can answer them right off the bat here. But my question to you is, and this is something you just touched on, what is the mindset that you would say the number one mindset that an SDR needs to have in order to be successful in this field?
Yeah, it's difficult. I would say, I'll say, for me, it's really learning to embrace. And this is going to sound like it's maybe disconnected, but I'll embellish on it if I need to. that everything is as it's supposed to be. Like,
Mm.
just like like they hung up on you. That's how it was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, if I had a friend, get laid off, and that was, I felt for him. I'm like, dude, that sucks. Like, I can't imagine. Um, but now he's interviewing at two companies that are even better than where he was. And it's just like, look, man, like
Wow.
everything is as it's supposed to be. So
Wow.
having that mindset has helped me, kind of, because a lot of the things that trip us up are whenever we start thinking about the future. So we start getting anxiety, like, oh, am I going to get an? So the SDR would be like, am I going to get enough meetings this month? Like, oh,
Yeah.
and we're already halfway through the month, and I've only got, 10% of my quota hit. I'm not sure. Oh my gosh, I don't know. So it's like, in that moment, there's only one place that we're not, and it's the present. We're in the
Yeah.
past thinking about, well, I only got 10%, and in the future thinking like, I got 90% to go, and I'm already halfway through the month. So there's
Yeah.
this, but we're not in the present. And for me, just telling myself, hey, everything is as it's supposed to be. That
Yeah.
helps me kind of pull myself out of that, and then come back to just right here. And then whenever you're here, now you can be like, okay, well, now what do I need to do? Like, what do I do? Because if you're reaching out
Good.
to prospects with with commission breath, with, I need you to, you have to take this meeting because I have to hit my quota. You're no longer in the business of serving people. You're no longer in the business of trying to
Mm.
offer your service as a service
Salute.
to them. You're trying
Yeah.
to serve yourself. And people feel that. People feel that. People don't like that. It doesn't resonate with your spirit whenever you're doing it, even though you may not realize it. And it's just, everything's out of alignment, and you don't perform as well. You don't do as well. And whenever you're focused on performance, I think people who focus a lot on performance don't perform very well. But
Yeah.
whenever you're focusing on just yourself, this is my best in this moment. What's my best in this moment?
Yeah.
To do to to quote Frozen 2, the next best thing. Like, just what's the next best thing? Like, just
Yeah.
that what next step do I need to do right now? And a lot of times, getting caught in the past and the future can really keep you from taking that next best step, or make you try to run through something. And really, it's just slowing down, centering yourself, and everything's as it's supposed to be. And now
Mm.
now that I know that, from that frame of mind, I can look and see, I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. Now what do I need to do?
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. Everything is supposed to be. That just saying that out loud brings your stress levels down. It brings your like
Yeah.
everything's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that is exactly what we want to be. And so with that being said, Q&A time, and I see some questions coming in. But I'm going to put it up here for a little bit. Reminder, Q&A. This is the time that you can ask questions to both Kingston and myself, and we'll try our best to answer. So I'm going to go with the first question I have here, and that is from Mr. Cameron Jackson. He says, final exam tips. And you're like laughing because you're like, final exam? What was that again?
Yeah, I mean, my answer, Cameron, would be just take it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been several people that I've talked to. People have reached out to me. A lot of people reached out to me asking me this exact question. And it's, if you took the time to even try to understand the course, chances are you're going to do well on the test. And I understand test anxiety is real.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, fortunately, they give you two opportunities to take it. And then after that, you can still take it. You just got to pay a fee for it. Like, for me, my mindset that, I know you're probably looking for, like, questions that were asked or something like that. They change those, I think. And so, like, I don't like it. There's oral, there's written, and then there's multiple choice. And if you understand, spin selling, if you actually read the books, if you're able to break down what the sales cycle is, if you're able to explain what the SDR's role is in the sales cycle, you're going to do well. But a lot of people that I talk to, they just get hung up. Like, well, I finished the course, 2 weeks ago, but I'm still studying for the exam. I'm like, you took the course was studying for the exam. Like that's what, like,
Mm-hmm.
like you studied. Now you're supposed to just take the exam. But we're
Yeah.
not in school where it's like exam day is the 12th. We don't have that. We get to choose when to take that. And a lot of people freeze up and they're afraid to do it. Just do it, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to fail twice. Don't be afraid to fail 5 times. If you got to do a couple hours at your day job, at your other job, in order to pay that fee to take the test again, then just do that and have the mindset of, I'm going to pass this test eventually. And eventually you're going to get the same questions that you got previously. You get to keep those, and you can just study that as a study guide. You're going to pass it. So just take it, man. You got it, Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could piggyback on that, going back to what you said earlier, all is what's supposed to be, right?
Right.
So I want you to kind of, because I'm a person that took it twice. Because the first time I took it, I was like, I don't like that score. I'm just gonna, and I was actually advised to do so, which I'm not ashamed of saying. I
Yeah.
took it twice, and both
Bro, I
times,
barely passed. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we're in the same the same boat. And so like I'm not even gonna say the score because the score doesn't matter. What does matter is the retention of information. And
Yeah.
what are you able to articulate what you've learned? So what I would advise you to do is if you could go to your family member, whether it's somebody that lives in the house with you or a friend, and you could be able to articulate and explain the information to them without really with it coming naturally to you, then you're in a good spot. I think that
Yeah.
a lot of times, like Kingston said, people get hung up on the exam, and that fear could be crippling. And I'm gonna address that fear because I want to make sure that you understand. Like I had our sixth child on a day of my interview. I had to reschedule that interview. We didn't even make it to the hospital. That's how crazy that day was. We're like, well, we did make it, but we're like,
Man.
baby was born in the car 3 minutes away.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh. Oh my gosh, dude.
that was quite the day. But the anxiety I had in that period of time, because I'm like, okay, I want to have a vision for my family. I want to do this, I want to do that. It paralyzed me, right? And so when I was taking the exam, my head was spinning. I'm like, I can't get up here because it's proctored. I'm like, all this sort of stuff was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to just kind of be like, you know what? You got here for you did all the work that was necessary to do. You can do this. And so the
Yeah.
first time I took it, I didn't get like the score that I had. I took it again, got a little bit better. But I said, hey, that's not the point. The point of me is getting a job. There's people that
Right.
haven't even gone that haven't even took the final exam at CourseCareers that have landed a job. So the goal,
Yeah.
you always want that goal to you want to understand what the purpose behind that is not for you to not just to have the certificate, which is great, but you want to be able to have the knowledge and be able to execute that knowledge. You want to be able to use
Right.
wisdom and have the skill to activate that wisdom. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you for your response, Cameron. I appreciate it. I've overcame my fear this week and put real hours into studying. You got this. You got this. You definitely
Yeah.
have it
You
for
got it, man.
sure. All right. And any other questions from anybody else as they're coming in? That was a great question, Cameron, by the way. That was a very good question. All right, I have one here, and it says, "How many jobs did you apply to an interview?" I think you mentioned it already, so I don't know if you want to mention it again. How many? I don't think you mentioned a number, but you
Yeah.
mentioned a lot.
Yeah. So as I was kind of wrapping up the course, and again, the timeline's a little fuzzy for me, but I believe as I was wrapping up the course, I was applying to places, and I thought I'll apply now, and then I'll put them into prospecting sequence, like next week whenever I, take the exam and all this kind of stuff. Or I think also I had a lot of family issues going on as well. Like during that time, I can't remember what my reasoning was, but my reasoning was like, I don't like right now, there's a lot going on. I can't really confidently plug them into a sequence. So I'm just going to apply places. And then I'll plug them in. But what I realized is a lot of these people are quick to respond. And so I would apply. And then before I would even get to the next week to put them in a sequence, I was getting rejection emails. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I gotta do this right away. And so it was that maybe I applied to 10 or 15 places like that. And I kind of scrapped that. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna I'm not going to do that anymore. And so I sat down on a Monday and I applied to, I want to say it was around 10, like, but it may have been like 11 or 12. But I applied to them, but I had a system where like the second I apply, I begin my outreach. The second I apply, I send the email and I, send the LinkedIn message, and I make for sure that before I even applied, I had their number and their email and the different personas that I was going to reach out to. I already had all of that. So it was we'll say 10 to 15 that week that I really sat down with that system. And that was the week that I got 3 responses of interviews starting. So by the time the next week started, I had interviews scheduled, and I didn't do any more prospecting for companies because I'm like, well, now I want to focus on researching the companies and understanding them. So it wasn't that many. It was 10 to 15 once I sat down with that system.
Yeah. And I think just to elaborate, not to elaborate, but to clarify in case you missed it, Mark, he also mentioned this is like ACC, after CourseCareers, versus BCC, before CourseCareers. Before CourseCareers, he mentioned he applied for plenty of jobs.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was mass applying then. Yeah, yeah. Never got anything back. I wasn't calling anybody. I wasn't emailing anybody. I just was like, this is a pretty good resume. They'll like it. Nobody liked it. Nobody.
No, and I appreciate both of you, Cameron. Thank you. You said thank you. And Mark also said thank you as well. And I'm going to add to that by saying one more thing. And while I'm talking again, please feel free to put in your questions here. But one thing I want to add to that is I realize how powerful doing outreach, like you said, is, because oftentimes the rejection letters are coming from the algorithm or whatever system they have that basically says this person doesn't have the keywords. This person doesn't have the keywords. That's why the responses were so quick, because the machine is just like, no. So when you are able to do outreach on top of it, it's not like a cherry on top as much as that thing is probably the bowl that's holding the ice cream together.
Yeah, that is your resume. Your outreach is your resume at that point.
Exactly. So that's how powerful it is. So I want people to realize that it's not really as much of an option. If you want to get a job in tech sales, you got to do the job. You have to do you have to do research. You have to do prospecting. And then you get to that interview, which is your discovery call period of time, right? So you have to do that in order to get the job. And there's no kind of going around it. We have time for about 2 to 3 more questions. I'm looking at my imaginary wristwatch. We have about 2 more questions. So I'll let you guys hurry up right now, because we got 2 to 3 more questions, and then we'll call it a day. And even if you ask a question already, feel free to ask another one.
I do have a bit of advice I can give on the interview side while we're waiting on a question. The one thing that I did that I actually, there was a last interview at Demand Base. It was supposed to be 6, but one of the directors wasn't able to make the group interview. And so he asked to interview me on his own separately. So I'm researching him, right? And he's the top guy in the sales development organization. And so I'm researching him. What is he like? And he made a comment on somebody's post. Somebody posted like, hey, if you got a sales job, take the company that you're applying to, find the ICP of that company, find an ICP, and then find a real person, a real persona that fits their buyer persona, and write a 10-step cadence to them and put it in a slide deck and bring that to your interview. And he commented on it and said, I love it when candidates do this. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do that. And I had a few hours before the interview. And so I just, I made that slide deck real quick. I found an ICP. I found a guy that I thought was a buyer persona. And I wrote a sequence. I actually wrote the emails out. I wrote a script out of what I would say on the phone and what I would leave as a voicemail, and, then what I would do next. And, I presented it, and I made it really clear, like, hey, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I'm hoping that this shows you that I have the drive, that I have the aptitude, and that at the very least I took in time to see what interested you and what you liked. And he loved it. It wasn't the best sequence. My emails were way too long, It wasn't really all that good, but it was the effort that really solidified it. He told me that the moment he saw that, I was hired. So, um, if there's advice I can give in the interview, if you do that, I think that'll really help you stand out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We got a question that came in actually while you were talking here, and I'm going to post it right here from Mr. Mitchell here. He says, either of you speak to someone who's already in tech, how going into tech sales has helped or hurt them. So let me, I think I could talk about it because I interview so many people from various backgrounds in tech, and then Kingston, feel free to chime in afterwards if you have thought about this. But the people that I've interviewed that have transitioned from software engineering or something like that into tech sales, they've actually said it's been one of the better moves for them because at the time they're looking for income, greater income, and so they were doing good, but they were capped income wise for whatever reason. They were capped and they couldn't accelerate past that. It wasn't until they got into tech sales and they were able to grow and be promoted that that cap that was probably once what 150 or even 250 went up to like 450, 500 plus. And so depending on how well because the higher you go, the more expectation it is. I think people got that misconstrued that I could just go into tech sales and sit nice and pretty, and they're just gonna be throwing money at me. No, you got to work for it. you got to work for
Yeah.
it. But high risk, high reward, right? And so that's kind of what I've seen from people that have transitioned into tech sales. Is as long as you have the skills and you're working towards those skills and you're building those skills and you're bringing in the revenue, chances are you could grow. Now, that's not the case for everybody, especially in the market that we're in. But what does a business need in order to be a business? They need to sell. And so
Right.
that's like the baseline for any business. So as much as people are like, man, I want job security, tech sales provides career security. And so that's why I want to encourage anybody who's thinking about transitioning into tech sales. Hopefully that answers your question, but that's my response.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you completely, Joseph. So there are people that get into tech sales, and I think they get into it misunderstanding exactly what it's going to be. And maybe they don't quite have the correctly adopted mindset to really get into it yet. And they may get chewed up and spit out. And there's also some companies that have a reputation for chewing up and spitting out um, candidates, and
Mm,
SDRs. And you can nowadays with Glassdoor, and if you have access to RepView, there's ways to avoid those companies, and you just avoid them. But there are really good companies out there that really do care. Like my manager cares about me as a person. You know what I mean? Like
same.
whenever we have one-on-ones, he's talking. It's not just like, hey, how can we get your numbers up? That conversation's there too. Like, how can I get better? But it's also like he takes interest in me and in my family. And there's companies out there that are like that. And so, yeah, there are people who have gotten into tech and who probably feel like they're worse off for it. But I think those people, um, I can't say 100% of the time, but I think most of the time they either didn't quite have the right mindset, or they got into a company that is just not a healthy company. But then there's a lot of companies that are really great and really awesome. And they'll coach you, and they're looking for new people. They're not afraid of new people, and they're not afraid to coach people that they see potential in. So, so yeah. And the people that I'm talking to in tech, most of them are at my company. And I mean, like my manager, he started as an SDR. He's now an SDR manager, and he's been doing it for a long time. And he's so content with his life, and he's crushing it. AEs I talk to, CSMs I talk to, I started as an SDR, and I love it. This is, total game changer for me. So yeah, it can be a game changer, or it can be just another this may sound harsh, but I don't mean it to be, but it can be a game changer, or it can be another excuse for you to be a victim.
True. It really can. Well said. Well said. Hopefully this answers your question, Mitchell. Oh, another one. Oh, he says, thanks, guys. I haven't started CourseCareers yet, but I believe in it so much that I've influenced others to start. I am soon. Thanks again. Yeah, it's definitely, honestly, life
Yeah.
changing for me, man, on so many different levels. I probably have to have another video just to talk about that, because it's not just, getting into tech. There's so many other benefits about actually being a part of Course Careers. So actually, I have, if nobody else has a question, I have one right now. Can you talk about a day in the life for yourself as an SDR? I think that might help them see contextually what you were talking about earlier when you said,
Yeah.
like what to expect.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, again, it's different on company to company. But what demand-based sells is we sell a software that basically provides um, account engagement and intent data. So we're able to see if an account is searching for our solution online, even if they haven't come to our website. We're able to see if an account has come to our website anonymously and what web pages they visited on our website. So then we're able to reach out to them, because we also sell sales intelligence. So we're able to then reach out to them and say, hey, I see that you're engaging on our website, or I see that you're searching for our solution. Let's talk. So what that enables me to do is that enables me to, instead of having to make 200, 150, 200 calls a day and send 100 emails, that what they told me is 30 to 50 calls a day, 20 to 30 emails, but they're targeted, they're real intentional. And I do more than that, because I'm trying to learn, and you learn by doing. But what I do, a day in my life is I start around 6 or 7 in the morning. And I do that because I start kind of researching the accounts that I'm going to be reaching out to. I want to understand them. I want to try to understand their pain. I want to try to understand, every day I try to add at least, and there's been some days I haven't because I've just had too many tasks, but every day I try to add, 1 or 2 accounts into my sequence. And so I do research on those accounts that I'm adding. I try to understand them. I try to, okay, what, based off of what I see that they're searching, based off of the personas that I see that are engaged, what could their possible pain point be? How could we best help them? And then I'm writing emails until 8 o'clock. And whenever 8 o'clock hits my time, that's 9 o'clock where you are, Joseph. That's whenever office is open. And at 9 o'clock, I'm calling the East Coast. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm calling the East Coast. 9 o'clock, I'm calling my time zone. 10 o'clock, I'm calling Mountain. And then 11 o'clock, I'm calling, Pacific. And I do that. And I'm writing emails in the meantime. I'm researching personas. And then I have another call block later on in the day. And so for me, it's just a lot of research. It's a lot of looking for those pain points, looking for those levels of personalization at the account level first, and then at the personal level. And just trying to find creative ways to break into accounts, so I'll even sometimes send messages to SDRs. I've done that before, where I'm like, hey, they're not responding to my email. Like your VP of demand gen's not responding to my email, and I need to talk to them. So like, can you help me out? Can you introduce me? So I'm trying to find all different ways to kind of, that's your job. So there's a set task list of, okay, I need to make these calls today and I need to send these emails. And then in the meantime, I'm exercising creativity, and I'm, okay, so, the ones that aren't responding to the emails, how can I, and they're reading them, how can I get them to take that next step? So yeah, that's the best answer I can give. And then at 5 o'clock, I'm done.
That's a great answer, actually. I don't even want to add a little more to that, but pretty similar. You're being a detective. That's my point of view. You're pretty much being a detective. And I would add to that, saying that, at least in my company, there's meetings throughout your day. So you're kind of work and revolve around the meetings.
I forgot those. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything, like,
meetings.
Yeah, but everything you said is true. Like, and then you just kind of have to like revolve your life around that. But I want to even add a little bit, because they like to hear a little of this stuff too about, you, at least for me, we really, if you're able to really kind of maximize your time, they actually encourage you to take walks. They encourage you to take care of your mental health. Of, if you go, hey, you want to go to the gym, go ahead, go to the gym, right? That, yeah, you could have a little more freedom in with structuring your day, as long as you make sure you keep your quota and you meet those meetings and stuff like that. So with that being said, if you're looking for a little bit more flexibility, this is definitely the industry for you. I mean,
Again, you want to clarify that in the interview, because there's some companies that are not like that, but a lot of them
Yeah.
are. And yeah, the demand base is the same way. They, our CEO hop on a call all sweaty and be like, I just got out the gym. It's like, make sure you make time to go. So yeah, it's there is that flexibility too. Even on Slack, I don't know if you guys have the little dog walk thing on your Slack channel, but you can see, like, if somebody's taking their dog out, they'll put it on the calendar. I'm taking my dog out for a walk right now.
Yeah.
And on Slack, it'll have a little dog walking next to their name. And it's like, okay, well, they're probably not going to respond because they're walking their dog right now. So
yeah, no, we don't use Slack. I used Slack in a company that I worked for years ago, but no, we don't use Slack. But that's hilarious now I think about it, because I can see the icon in my head, like just like right there.
The dog walking.
The dog walking. Well, would that be well, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I'm gonna add that to so everybody can see that. Like he said great stuff. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that was here. If you were here, thank you so much for joining us. Like, this has been great. And I think that this is going to be helpful for a lot of people. If you haven't already, like I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, the YouTube channel has finally passed the 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you want to go ahead and jump on that, there's plenty of interviews similar to the one that we had today with Kingston that are there. That, I mean, there's some people that have reached out to me and said, man, this nugget right here has helped me land a job here. This nugget right here has really kind of added clarity to me. So if you want to go ahead, and of course it's your choice, you're grown, but go ahead and click go to youtube.com/@technichetips, and then go ahead and subscribe. Again, you're grown. If this was great for you, go ahead and like this as well. Share this with other people. Just a little bit of a warning, though, for my LinkedIn people. If I'm probably going to keep this on for probably in 24 hours or so, and then it's coming down, but it will be remaining on YouTube. So go ahead if you want to see the replay of this and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more. With that being said, thank y'all. We really appreciate it, Kingston and I hope to see you on the other side. Take care, family.